r/AskReddit. What have you done that your parents punished you for, but it was totally worth the punishment? Teacher in middle school tried to write me up for Saturday school for talking during an exam when the person who had done it had already fessed up. I asked him why I had to spend a Saturday in detention when someone else had already admitted to it. He told me do not question your elders and eat the consequences you were fed by them. So I crumbled up the pink slip and ate it in front of him. My punishment was my mother buying me a spiral notebook for dinner. My mom was always very strict about my curfew. When a girl from work asked me out for ice cream after the late shift, I couldn't refuse. I called my mom, told her I was going on a date and I would be home later. She wasn't very happy, but I went anyway. That date was the start of one of my best relationships. At my 11th birthday party, my stepsister's son, who was also 11, hit me in the back of the head with a croquet ball, on purpose. Once I stopped crying, I punched him in the face hard enough to bloody his nose. My mom spanked me for it. No regrets. He was a mean little shit who was always doing stuff then blaming it on me. After I fought back, he pretty much left me alone. And no, he didn't get in trouble for hitting me with the ball. Ouch, that reminds me of my family's last family reunion. Parents are inside doing adult things. Me and the other kinds ages 5, 10 were outside taking turns pulling the red wagon back and forward. This was before cable TV and there was no cartoons on. Well, my cousin kept the wagon to himself and would not let anyone else pull it, so I confronted him to get him to let the younger kids take a turn as one was getting ready to start crying. That pose shoved me to the ground and latched onto my left shoulder with his teeth. I ended up elbowing the back of his head, that one of his teeth fell out and was stuck in my shoulder. He goes crying to his parents and I went to my parents, since my shoulder was fucking killing me. As you expected, his parents went apeshit on my parents. My parents did not think I was in the wrong for knocking the fucker's tooth out, since he was biting my shoulder hard enough to draw blood. After that event we never had a family reunion again. One time, my younger brother told our mom I hit him. Just walked into my room and started screaming about me hitting him. I hadn't even looked at him. So of course, mom comes in, won't hear me at all, and immediately grounds me. My younger brother has this shitty grin on his face. And I thought, fuck it, I'm already getting punished for hitting him. So mom's like, you're grounded for hitting your brother. I turned to him and punched him as hard as I could in his sternum. He fucking dropped. Then I go, alright, I'm grounded, and walk away. Oddly enough, mom didn't say anything at that point. I like to think she realized what was up. Bonus, my brother never pulled that shit again. Consequences. Let a friend do 4 loads of laundry in our basement while my parents weren't home because her family's washer and dryer broke and they had 5 kids and no clean clothes. I didn't want my best friend to have to go to school in dirty clothes when I could help her. My family was not poor by any means, and we do laundry constantly, so I didn't think there would be any problem with it. We had already finished and just folding the last load of clothes and putting it into her hamper bag when my parents got home. They waited until she left to yell at me and then grounded me, taking the door off of my room and removing all the fun stuff from my room, books, art supplies, etc., and wasn't allowed to go anywhere but school for 3 months. I decided that they were being selfish assholes and continued to help my friend do laundry. We just made sure to limit it to 2 loads and made sure she was gone before they were home. TL. Doctor, I helped someone and was punished for it. Edit. Well, I got more attention than I thought I would, so I'd answer some repeated comments. I'm a girl, so no, it wasn't an issue of not wanting their son to have a girl over. Yes, my parents are borderline narcissist. This wasn't an unusual punishment or behavior for them. This was just one time where there was a clear reason for their bullshit. It wasn't an issue of money. My parents were well off. Had a house party at 15 when my parents went away. It was a great party. Would have gotten away with it if a boy didn't break a pane of glass on my dad's greenhouse. Was only grounded for a week and went 50/50 on the pane with my twin sister. Edit. Idiot can't spell glass pane. My parents were gone for 2 weeks when I was 16 and I had a series of parties making a huge mess. somehow got everything cleaned up down to the last bottle cap, even though they surprised me and came home early. A few days later my dad came up to me and asked whose name was written in the dust on a mirror in the basement. Got super busted, but hey, 10 years later I'm still dating the girl that needed to write her name everywhere she went. When I was still in school and playing junior high basketball, one of the guys on the senior high team thought it would be funny to take my gym bag and piss on my clothes during after practice. I didn't realize he'd done it until I had already changed and went to 8th period class. I figured they were wet because someone had sprayed my bag with water in the shower, a common prank at this time. During class several guys were laughing at me and wouldn't tell me why. It hit me what had happened after I smelled my shirt and it had a horrible stench of piss. Probably one of the most humiliating things that had happened. The next day, I took the urine with me to school, pretty common thing to have where I'm from during hunting season, and dumped the entire bottle in his locker. It was on his school books, clothes, and backpack. It was a huge ordeal. The whole school building stunk horribly, and they began a little investigation on who done it. After being confronted by the principal, I admitted that I had done it. The school made my parents pay for the books, and I was kicked off the basketball team for the rest of the year. I was so disgusted that I had worn piss clothes that I couldn't bring myself to tell anyone my reason for it. My parents grounded me for months and forced me to work off the cost of the books. Like a year later I finally told my parents and they both thought it was hilarious. They then told me they wished they had known why I did it and they felt bad for punishing me so harshly. When I was in my teens I was in a band with my best friend. Like many bands we went through various names before settling on our final one, which ended up being Lucky Strikes Again. Another friend of mine's mom worked in the Chamber of Commerce in Pilsen, and she was helping organize this art/music festival. He asked if we wanted to play at the festival and we agreed. We never really played many shows. It was mostly a band we had, just to have fun on weekends. But this one was going to be the biggest show we ever played, since there was likely to be a good amount of people at the festival. They asked us for a band picture and we didn't want to do this lame picture of the three of us posing. The name originally came from my love of Lucky Strike cigarettes and this drawing I did of the phrase painted on a wall that I wanted as a tattoo on my back. We decided to recreate that picture, but do it on the side of a train car instead. My friend and I drove around the city looking for a clean train car to do it, but every time we found one it was being watched by security. Finally, I was like, fuck it, I got an idea, let's go back to my house. We got back, and I went to the basement, where we had a bucket of black paint left over from some project. I decided that we were going to paint it on the door of our garage, and since we had time to do it right, we'd use paint and a paintbrush instead of spray paint, like I had for the train. As we are heading back to the garage my mom was coming home with my cousin, who was visiting from Mexico. She sees me and the can of paint and knows I'm about to do something stupid. I told her, you can punish me later, just please let me do what I'm doing. She didn't really feel like dealing with whatever I was going to do, but she figured it probably wasn't dangerous and left me alone. Even though the show itself ended up being a mess for various reasons, it was totally worth it though, because the picture came out awesome. I pantsed my friend in junior high school and they suspended me for sexual harassment. When I got home, my dad ordered me to stand up. And then he did the unthinkable. My dad pantsed me. Edit. Pantsed. Definition. To get pantsed is to have one's pants pulled down unexpectedly, from the waist to the ankles, exposing one's underwear. My friend was hanging from the monkey bars and I couldn't let the opportunity go to waste, so I ran up behind him and pantsed him so good. Every girl in the playground started laughing at his tighty white eyes. Background. We used to do this all the time to each other back in junior high school. If you were wearing sweatpants or shorts and weren't being aware of your surroundings, you got pantsed. Never would the underwear come down too. If it did, that was purely collateral damage as it was not the intention to display one's pee-pee in public. It was usually done to embarrass the victim. Nothing more, nothing less. And yes, guys and girls were subject to this tradition, but for girls it was much more rare and just a dumb thing boys do. The incident My friend had pantsed me the day before, and I was itching for the opportunity to get back at him. We had just finished PE class and were lining up for an assembly. He was wearing shorts, so it was the perfect moment. I snuck up behind him and with one fluid motion pantsed him in front of everyone. I would say it was one of my best pantsings of all time, or at least in the top 10. He was thoroughly embarrassed, but that was the extent of it. My gym teacher, who notoriously had it out for me the whole year, noticed all the commotion and asked what was going on. Some kid piped up and snitched on me. She immediately told me to go to the principal's office. "That's sexual harassment," she said. That was the first time I had even heard those words uttered. I had to go to the principal's office and explain what happened. They called my parents and slapped me with a 3-day suspension. Later that day, I came home and my parents were waiting for me in the living room. My dad was strict as hell and I was constantly frightened of him. I sat down across from him, on the farthest seat across from him no less. He just stared at me for what felt like hours, with his eyes burning black like the fires of hell. I was terrified. "Stand up," he then ordered. I had no idea what he was going to do. And then, he walked up and in one fluid motion pants the living shit out of me. "You like pulling people's pants down? I'll show you what it feels like to pull people's pants down." I burst into tears, with my pants hanging down by my ankles, in total embarrassment and humility. Talk about giving someone a taste of their own medicine. The perfect punishment. After that day, I never pantsed anyone again. And I always remembered to wear a belt or drawstring to school. I'd love it if you liked and subscribed.